All right, guys, welcome. Mr. O here. I want to talk about today how to produce an awesome thumbnail. And by awesome, I mean the sort of thumbnail that you see in a ton of different YouTube videos and all over the place on the web when you want to introduce media. Those thumbnails are really largely modeled after Mr. Beast, one of the most successful YouTubers of all time. I read a recent article that was kind of interesting about how much work he actually put into creating this awesome thumbnail that does attract people to your video. So there are some basic elements. Number one, most of these thumbnails have a picture of the person, but it's just the person. It's not any background or anything like that. It's just a picture of the person with the background removed. And that I think that allows people to connect to the video that they're watching and get a good look at who they're going to be listening to or watching in the video. So that picture is super important. Number two, you've got some exciting and attention grabbing text, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. You might have some other imagery, so I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So we'll take a look at that. As far as the picture of the person goes, there's really two different ways to do that. One is with what you would call a green screen, but it doesn't have to be green, but it's got to be a nice plain colored background. And that's going to be the easiest from a graphic editing standpoint. The other method I'm going to show you is if you don't have a green screen and if you just have your regular background, I'm going to show you how to work with that as well, because that's also super doable. Not as easy from a graphic editing standpoint, but sometimes you got to work with the picture that you have. So we'll take a look at all of those steps and we'll get into it. So watch closely and feel free to pause it and rewind if you need to. But there's definitely some steps here, but it does create a pretty nice looking thumbnail when all is said and done. So all right, let's get to it. We'll look at first how to do it with a green screen. Okay, so the easiest way to do this from a graphic editing standpoint is if you take your picture in front of a solid colored screen, like a green screen. Um, if I've done that, if you've got access to a green screen or even a white screen or any colored solid background, very solid, um, I'm going to say I've taken that picture in front of a green screen. I'm going to choose File, Open. I'm going to open the image that I've taken in front of a green screen. And here we go. So I've taken the picture in front of a green screen. This has already been photoshopped. It's not a real photo in front of a green screen, but that's all right. That's beside the point. But we're going to assume we've taken a picture in front of a green screen. What I'm going to choose is I'm going to choose the tool called Select by Color. I'm going to click on the green. What that does is it selects all of the green. If I press delete right now, it gets rid of the green. I don't really want to do that, so I'm going to undo that with Control Z. But I've got all the green selected. Instead of the green, I want the opposite of the green. I want the girl. So I'm going to choose Select, and I'm going to choose Select, Invert. And that, you're not going to see any changes, but what it does is it selects the opposite of the green. So right now, if I were to press delete, it deletes the girl. I'm going to undo that. So I've got the girl selected right now. I'm going to copy the girl with Control C, and then I'm going to paste with Control V. If you can see your layers window right now, you'll see you have a floating selection, pasted layer. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to create a new layer for that. And that new layer, you can kind of see has transparency around it. I'm going to hide my old layer. And so now you can see I've got just the girl that I copied from that one layer and I've pasted into a new layer. Right now, if I save this picture or export this picture, I'm going to have a picture of just the girl with the transparency around it, and that's something that can be useful for a thumbnail. So to do that, I'm just going to choose File, I'm going to choose Export As, and I'm going to call this New Image. And instead of a JPEG, when you want transparency, you want to make sure you put the extension PNG on it. PNG will support that transparency and it'll allow for that transparency, whereas a JPEG will not. So you want to make sure that your file ends in PNG. The name is only important so that you know it later, but the .png is important to preserve your transparency. I'm going to say export, I already have one, so I'm going to replace the one I have. You probably won't. Usually all the settings are just fine. Don't get intimidated by any of these. Just choose export again. It'll run through. And so now I've created this image that has the girl in the middle and transparency all around. So then we can look at how to use that in the next step. Okay, so let's look at how to do this if we don't have a green screen or if we're just using a picture where we took it on a regular background. Once again, I've got my photo editor GIMP open. I'm going to choose File, Open. I'm going to find the original picture right here. See, we have a regular background. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to use my scissor select tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start clicking around, starting at her left hip. I'm going to click and move and click and move and click and move and click and move. With the scissor select tool, it's trying to follow lines of contrast. So um, it'll work better in some places than others if you have a good contrast. I'm doing a little correction here, but I'm just kind of clicking and moving around her shape with my scissor select tool. Click, move, click, move, click, move, click, move, so on and so forth. So this one is going to take you a little more time. If you want to do a really good job, you're going to click more often, zoom in, and do a bunch of clicks and a bunch of moves. But eventually, I'm going to try to get back to my starting point. When I get back to my starting point, it's going to show a closed circle. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to click inside. So that says I have the inside. I'm going to copy and paste. I get a floating selection again. I'm going to create a new layer for that floating selection, and I'm going to hide my original layer. Then I'm going to repeat those steps that I did in the last method. I'm going to export. I'm going to call this new image 2. And once again, I put a PNG on the end, so it'll save as a PNG file. That'll support transparency. All these settings are great. I'm going to export again. So now I've got this image. Same thing I had in the first method. I had to use the scissors instead, and that's okay. The next thing I'm going to show you is how you can create engaging text. I'm going to use a website called cooltext.com. And so if you go to this website, I'm going to click the one called Fun, and I'm just going to replace this text with the title of what I was going to have my video be. Let's say I was doing a gardening video, and I want to do great tomatoes in we'll do the number 3 easy steps, and of course, 3 exclamation points. You can make lots of changes in cooltext.com. You can change the font style, you can change the size. There are some other options up here to make changes to the color and the shadow and lots of other things. But I'm going to keep everything and just click Create Logo. Once I create my logo, I'm going to choose Download, and that should download an image file into my Downloads folder. And you can see it down on the bottom, cool text with a number series after it, PNG file. All right, my last step is to bring everything together into one place. Um, there are different ways that you can do this, but what I really like to use is PowerPoint, and you can use Google Slides as well. Um, but the reason I like this is because PowerPoint, number one, is the right size when we're talking about a thumbnail that's wider than it is tall. These PowerPoint slide, the aspect ratio on a PowerPoint slide is perfect for thumbnails. So I like that. The same thing is true with Google Slides. So if you have Google Slides, that you get the same proportions, and that's great. Um, the other thing that I like about PowerPoint more so than Google Slides is it's got a lot of great design tools. So if you want to use a certain design, you can go to the Design tab and you can pick from the different themes that are already built in. The other thing that you can do is check out in the Design tab, you can check out the Designer panel over here. And this has got a lot of great design ideas in here as well. So if you find something that looks good, either in the themes up top here or in the design tool, you can use that as the baseline for your design. So I'm going to pick this one with this triangle looking thing. I'm not going to need a subtitle, so I'm going to click on the border of this subtitle right here, and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to do the same thing for the title because I'm not going to need that. I'm going to click on the border if I get it. I'll move the triangle out of the way. Then I probably have an easier time getting this. Yep, now I can delete that, and then I can bring that triangle image back. Okay, so I've gotten rid of the title and the subtitle, and then I'm just going to bring in the couple images that I've created. So I'm going to insert an image, insert a picture from this device. I'm going to browse and find the um, the transparent background image that I removed. So I'll browse and find that. So I insert that. I can resize this, move it around, resize it, make it bigger. Let's see, we'll put her over here, nice and big. If you've got another image, you might want to insert that other image. I saved a picture of some tomatoes that are going to match with my title. So I'm going to throw that image in here also. And then I'm going to throw in my title image, also insert pictures from this device. This is the cool text that I made, which is hanging out in my downloads folder. So I'm going to find that. Great tomatoes in 3 steps. So that gives me some of these elements that you see on some of your best thumbnails. It gives you a big picture of somebody's face that you can connect with. It's transparent around it, so you're just getting that person's image. You can move it to wherever you want to. You've got some big exciting text that tells you exactly what that video is going to be about or exactly what to expect. And then maybe you have some other imagery going on as well. Up to you on that. But this gives me those elements that you do see most commonly in thumbnails. So next, the last thing I would need to do is capture this and turn it into a picture. Capture this and turn it into a picture, because right now it's a PowerPoint presentation. That's not really useful for what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a screen capture technique with the snipping tool. I'm going to click off. Let's see, I'm going to try to get nothing. So I've got nothing selected. I can see my whole slide. If it helps you to zoom out a little bit, you could zoom out. So I've got nothing selected. I can see my whole slide. So then the last thing I need to do is capture this, and I'm going to do that with the snipping tool. That's under my Windows menu, and I'm going to scroll down to Windows Accessories. I'm going to pick the snipping tool, and then I'm going to, once that pops up, I'm going to create a new snip. So I'm going to use new, and then I'm going to use my crosshairs to draw. Before I do that, sorry, new. And then I need to move this out of the way. Then I'm going to use my crosshairs to draw around that area that I want, to just click and drag. And this is what I'm going to want as my thumbnail. I've got my text, I've got my image, I've got another picture. I can save this, file save as. I'll just put this on my desktop and I'll call this thumbnail. It's going to save that as a PNG file, and that's great. JPEG would be fine for this as well. Either way works. So I'll save it as thumbnail. It's going to be a JPEG file, and I'll save. And the snipping tool has now saved that as an image file. I can take that image file and I can do a lot of different stuff with it. But primarily, you can use that as a thumbnail in a YouTube video. So, hope this helps. It's a lot of steps. There's a lot going on, but hopefully I've walked you through it pretty slowly so that it'll work out for you. Good luck, and thanks for watching.